Hey everybody, I am so excited to be back at the 3D Motion and Design Show. It has been about a year and a half since I was first on, and so much has happened since then, and I am so excited to be able to share all of that with you. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and watch my latest reel.
Saturday, looking like a debutante in California. Tell the world to hold on, cause I'm on my way. We'll be shaking, baking till the break of dawn. A candlelit soiree underneath the stars, and the boys are gonna hang with the fancy cars. Everybody's on stage cause we're living life. Get ready, baby, till the final song. Turn up the music, baby, ooh, ooh. We about to lose it, make the news, news. Walking to the party, always looking foxy. There's a lot of shaking going on. Things are getting saucy, living so glossy. There's a lot of shaking going on. Tell me, do you feel it? Show me that you mean it. Walking to the party, always looking foxy. There's a lot of shaking going on.
Okay, I know why you're all here. You're here because I worked on this little indie film called Lightyear. I'm kidding, of course. Yeah, Pixar. It's insane. I am so I have no words. Reception is just amazing, and I am so lucky and thrilled, just thrilled and speechless still that they brought me onto the team. And today I'm going to be talking about that. And I'm very excited to share that Pixar is allowing me to show a clip of the end credits with you. So we're going to watch that now before I dive into this. So that should give you a pretty good idea of what the end credits look like for Lightyear. Now, I have a fun idea. We're going to start this from scratch. No models, nothing. And we're going to build something in ZBrush. Now, since Lightyear is the Marvel movie of the Pixar universe, and as we all know that Marvel is a multiverse, so it stands to reason that Lightyear also has a multiverse. So I thought we could do a spin on that. And in some other universe, there's another movie just like Lightyear, but it's about a robot. So we're going to model a robot in ZBrush, and we're going to put him in the credits. Before we start modeling, I just wanted to take a moment to talk about references. Before I start modeling anything, I always gather as many different references as I can or feel that's necessary. And what I love to use is this app called Eagle, spelled just like the bird. And what's really great about it is that there is actually a web little Chrome thingamajig where I can click in it and I can save URL, I can batch save, I can capture an area, I can do all that. But say I also have like an image, I could also right click and save image to Eagle. So I just think that is really great. The other thing is that when you save it, you can add tags to it. It'll put where it came from. It'll also create swatches of the colors used in it. And it's just really great because I can throw everything in there. I can add tags to it. It's easily searchable. See, I searched robot and it's pulled all the images that I've tagged with robot. And yeah, it's just really great. I really love it. Now on to ZBrush. As some of you may have spotted, I have my friend Knox Art up here. I wanted to call him out because I learned ZBrush from him. He has this really great intro to ZBrush series, and I also use his shortcuts on some of my brushes, which are really nice. But if you have never used ZBrush before, I highly suggest you check out his series. It is very straightforward, and you'll pick it up super fast. And here is the base I've gone ahead and created for our robot with all the different pieces. And I just sculpted this out real quick with spheres nothing fancy. I can go ahead and show you how I did that. One thing I did in particular was after, if I undo this, no, I don't want to undo this one. Let's undo a different one. All right. Now I start off with a sphere on one side, and then I go into geometry, modify topology, mirror and weld, and that will mirror it on the other side and makes it one. And then when I have on transform, when I have activate symmetry on, then when I do one thing on one side, it'll do it on the other side, which is just really nice for when sculpting a character or any sort of humanoid like this. Excuse me. It's really great for whenever you're sculpting any sort of humanoid shape or anything that's going to be symmetrical, just so that way while you're sculpting, it's also happening on the same side. Granted, you could just do it all on one side and then mirror and weld it, but I like seeing the full picture while I'm working. That's just a personal preference. All right, I did mention the shortcuts that I use for the brushes. I got 1 is standard, 2 move, 3 is clay, 4 dam standard, 5 is trim dynamic, and 6 is inflate. Now, I mentioned that I got these from Nick, my friend Nick, and they are a free download. They're linked on the first video of that series that I showed you. So it's just a really quick and easy way to have some of the brushes you're going to use the most. And I am going to take a moment to talk about some other brushes that are particularly useful for hard surface modeling. We are going to start off with one that you have to actually open up. So let's go into Lightbox. And let's go to brush, and we want to go into trim. Now in trim, there's this trim hole brush, and I really like this one. I'm going to click N. It's going to bring up all my pieces. I want the chest. Now, let me Dynamesh this before I dive into this, or else it's not going to look very good. Let's up the subdivisions a bit. Oh. There we go. All right. So for instance, let's say we were giving him some like circles on his shoulder. Like you get these really nice slices. You have to get just the right angle, but say I pull this up and make it smaller. Then I could cut, I could cut into it. And you could just get some really interesting geometry that way. So I like doing that, using that for like bolts and stuff like that on a hard surface. So that is one brush that I really love that you have to go into your Lightbox to open up. And again, that's called Trim Hole. You can see it up there. It's really nice. Another one, this is for masks specifically, is the mask curve. Now, to activate your mask, you want to click Control, and it turns yellow. And this one, you drag it out, you click Alt, it's going to curve it. You click Alt twice, you're going to get a hard edge. Click Alt again, it's a curve. But you get the idea. So that is a really great way to do some good cutouts and stuff in ZBrush. So that's what I like now. This shape isn't bad. Spoiler alert is that I've already modeled our robot. This is just for me to show you guys techniques I use, and then we're going to skip to the finished robot because modeling takes a while, and I think it'd be kind of boring you guys watching me just mess around in ZBrush for an hour. And then we want to get to Cinema 4D and all the other cool stuff. So to inverse it with Control, I just click, and it inverts. Now, here's another brush that I really like. And I'm bringing up the brush menu by clicking B. For those of you that aren't familiar with ZBrush, just so you know, click B. All your brushes come up. Now, what I want in particular, Move Infinite Deep. This I really like for if I'm bringing a bunch of polygons in or bringing a bunch of polygons out. It just has a smoother control than if I was just using Move. But yeah, so that is how I do things like that. Use the Move Infinite Deep. Now that we have that out, I'm gonna deselect. So let the topology think a little bit. Now, another brush that I love for hard surface modeling is the S Polish. Where are you? S Polish. Now, shoot. If you ever mess up and can't figure out where you are, just click F and you'll just bounce out a bit. All right. What I like about the S Polish is that it smooths things out, but it holds on to hard edges better than using just smooth. You can see that still has like a nice, decent hard edge. Now here, if I just hold down Shift and I do it, you can see just everything just gets fuzzy, which really isn't what you want for hard surface modeling. You want edges. You don't want that softness like that. So that's why I like the S Polish. And I can go back over this part and smooth it out just to make that edge a little bit better. Also does a great job just smoothing out geo very nicely. See? But yeah, so that is why I really like S Polish. Okay, let's see. Are there any other brushes I should talk about? Damn Standard is always a good one to use, and it can really help you cut in on your edges, which is something you use in soft as well as hard. But you can get a lot out of just those few brushes. Oh, and of course, pinch. Pinch is another great one for really refining your edges and just getting them really nice. Just pinching them up. So much better. This cut was really messy and it bothers me a lot. But it's probably really good for an example and you guys get the idea. So those are the general brushes that I use for hard surface modeling. All right, let's jump ahead to the finished robot and get this puppy into Cinema 4D. All right, here is our finished robot. Now what I need to do is I need to bring this mesh down, because right now it is extremely heavy and there is no way I'll be able to bring this into Cinema 4D easily. So I'm not going to do that on camera, as it takes a while and isn't very exciting. But I will tell you that you should go and watch my friend Steve Teep's video right here. And it's all about how to refine blockout meshes in ZBrush with Z-Remesher and Z-Modeler. And this will bring your topology down, like your polygons, and also help you refine. This is especially really good for hard surface modeling. So watch that and I'll show you what I'm doing, and I will see you guys in Cinema 4D shortly. All right, here we are in Cinema 4D. Our robot is in here. I've thrown some textures on him. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I create a custom UV for the credit. And here is the texture right here. As you can see, there is a fill, a stroke, and a heat that I've imported in. And these are JPEG sequences that I've rendered out of After Effects, which are very simple. This is just the fill. And they all timed up to match. This is the stroke, so we get a little bit of edges on it. And then this is the heat pass, and when it fills in where it's just like hot. So that is what's going on in there. Let's hop back over here. So I blended these all together. I've also plugged them into a custom AOV, and this is just so I can do some comp work. Now let's go ahead, and I'm gonna need a neck, as I'm gonna do it right here. And I'm gonna go ahead and select the area I'm thinking of where I want this to be and clean it up. I didn't get this mesh down as low as I would have liked, but I was losing detail, so it is what it is. And I wanted, since the camera is going to land here, it was more important for this to have more detail than other areas, so I picked and chose where I just got rid of polygons more. All right, that should be big enough. Now what we'll do is we're going to go into VP UV edit. Right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select inverse. Okay, I'm going to first thing, I want to make sure that I'm not undoing the other UV. I want to make sure that is kept. So I duplicated it. Now I'm going to reset UV. Now I only have the part that I want. Yeah, UV transformation tool. This is what I want. Make it bigger. Make it bigger. There we go, that's better. And let's rotate it. And bring it down. That looks about center. that should be good. We'll call this as credit. Let me make sure the other one is fine. Yep, other one's still good. All right, that should be good to go. Now we'll go back into my Redshift layout, open up the credit material, and here the texture, the UV channel. We'll drop in the credit. And let's check my render view. Oh, I also need to apply the material. That'd help. There it is. Ta-da! All right, and that is how you use UVs to texture specific areas. Okay, let's talk about how I built the textures. What I've done is I've used two different scratches textures from Grayscale Gorilla, and then I've used a another scratches texture. I obviously changed my mind a lot. And then using a scratches texture to change the mix amount, which is just making things feel a little bit more organic. And then in that RS color mix, I'm also pumping it through a ramp. And in this ramp, it's allowing me to kind of crush it a bit. I'm not using a pure white. It's a little bit more of a gray, so it makes the scratches a little bit less aggressive. And depending on how much I crush it, I'll get more or less surface imperfections. It's just a great way to control it, and I learned this trick from the lead on Lightyear, Steve Savell. He is brilliant and just a wonderful guy, and I learned so much from him. But yeah, so that is the general texture setup. For the eyes, I want them to glow, and I use the technique that we used for a lot of the buttons, where I'm actually making his eyes a red glass, and I also have a light behind them. So there's a light in his head. I have found that that just gives a better look and just looks a little bit more realistic than if I would just throw an emissive material on the eyes. So that's what's happening there. Now let's go ahead and take a moment to talk about the stereoscopic cameras. You can see I already have them set up, but I'll go ahead and duplicate this. And then I'm going to delete the right camera, and I'm going to hide this one. We're going to jump into this, and we're just going to pretend the other ones. Oh, I want to hide all of them. We're just going to pretend those don't exist. All right. So you've animated your camera, and you've been really good, and you've already named it left, LF for left. Now let's say, okay, camera angle is good. We love the animation. Time to do stereo. Awesome. Let me turn it off. So this is how it would be before you would turn it on. Under stereoscopic tab, you're going to go under mono, and you're going to go left. And it's going to be automatically on off axis. Off axis is nice because it allows you to control the depth. Now the eye separation is what's really important here. Although actually, let me turn this back off for a second. And we're going to go to the very beginning. Now, what I do is I always go to the very beginning of the timeline, and then I take this left camera, I copy and I paste it, and then I make it a child, and then I name it right. All right. And then I check its coordinates. Everything should be 0 except the size, and there should be no freeze transformations on. If you have any freeze transformations, you want to get rid of those because they will screw everything up. Let's go back to the left, stereoscopic. Turn it back on again. Left, off axis. Now this eye separation, you want to right click it, and you want to go to expressions, set driver. You go to the right, you go to object, coordinates. On the X, You're going to go to expressions, set driven, absolute. And now you have stereo cameras. If you want to see them both at once, you go into options, stereoscopic. And now it's going to look a little funny. And this is the part where I would put on my 3D glasses, just to get an idea of how it's looking. Also, if you display, let's do quick shading with lines. This will show it even more. You can see how the lines are going, the red and the blues, which when you're looking for depth is a good thing to do. All right, so that all looks good. Let's say our depth is perfect. The other thing is that when you have the off axis, you're going to have to also then compensate for that and adjust the film offset in the X. Now on the left in stereoscopic, you want to make sure show all cameras is checked on. This will not be checked on by default, so you want to check that on. And I'll show you what that does. Let's zoom out. All right, let's zoom in. And I'm going to click it off. You see that line? We want to line up our right camera with that line. And our right camera is this one. So we go to Object, Film Offset X, and start messing with that. -0.5. That's too far. Let's try -0.4. That's closer. Let's change it to tiny, see if I can zoom in just a little bit more. All right, we can get a little bit closer. Let's try -3.9. That seems to be right on the money. So now our cameras are set up well. A trick to making sure that the part that you want to be landing at a specific spot is you can throw in a cube. Since I can't see where I've placed the credit, I can throw a cube right down there and I can see how much things are separating. If I increase the eye separation, they separate more. If I wanted them both all to be right at camera, I would do that. Let's see where the zero parallax is. This is where your screen is. So this is where like when you're staring at something, that is going to be what is going to be like in the most focus, whereas the near plane is where everything is going out of the camera and the far plane is where everything is going back from the camera. So we want our near plane to be right about there because we want the credit to be just behind the camera. So that looks good. Now let's double check that those adjustments didn't mess up the camera, which they did as expected. So we'll go back into our x-axis. Let's try -0.4, -0.5, a little bit more than that. Let's try 5.5, a little more, 8. Let's try 6, 5, 6, 6. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. All right. I say our stereo cameras are now ready to render. So I will catch you guys in comp. Okay, here we are in comp. Let me take you through what I did real quick. So this is the left, and I have a camera. I have a comp light that I brought in from Cinema 4D using a great plugin called AE to Cinema 4D Pro. It's just really great for pushing things out of Cinema 4D into After Effects. It's great. And then my green solid is my optical flare, which you can see that in the beginning, which is tracking to the light that I pushed in from Cinema 4D. This is just the inner glow that I added to the eyes using a puzzle mat that I put on the material of that red glass. And I threw an optical glow on top of that and a matte chokers just so I can keep it to the insides of the eyes. Now I have a type layer, and I also have a stroke layer with optical flare, with optical glow, as well as on the stroke. Both the stroke and the heat have optical glow. And then I just have the beauty underneath that. So let's go ahead and do the right side. With this selected, I'm gonna go open True Comp Duplicator. I already have it set up, and I am duplicating the footage. This isn't really necessary because this is a very simple comp, but I'm going to do this because it streamlines the process, and it's really good to do for if you have a more complex comp. Duplicate selected. All right, here it is in our right folder. I'll go ahead and close this window. I'm gonna rename, as it turned it to C4D to C5D. And let's go ahead and rename this as just right. And one. All right. Now in here, it's this duplicate of the like the EXR render. So I'm going to take the right, and I'm going to put it on top. And as you can see, we bounce back and forth. Let me go to fit. Fit. Like this. You can see how it shifts. One thing that isn't really shifting is the optical flares. And actually what we're going to do is we're going to move this over 20 pixels. And then we're going to throw a reptile on top. And we're going to expand the left 20 pixels and change it to unfold. And now it fits better. Now, how to double check this? And say you wanted to render out a classic red and blue 3D version to watch at home with your red and blue 3D glasses. Well, in this comp, oops, no, that's not what I want to do. In this comp here, Robot 3D, let me drop in the right. And on this adjustment layer, I have an effect called 3D glasses. This is standard in After Effects, if you didn't know. I'm going to plug in the right view, and I have done it as balanced red, blue, left, right. And so now, if you have 3D glasses, you can put them on, and you will actually see depth. You'll see parts coming out at you at the screen. You'll see parts going back into the screen. It's just really cool. So yeah, you could totally just render this out for yourself, or you could render this out and throw it up on a TV. Now, if you were delivering to a client, like for theatrical release, you are going to be delivering a left and a right separately. So this is also just really good for double checking that, making sure that things are lining up the way that you wanted them to. And yeah, it's also just cool to get a glimpse of your work in 3D space. Now, let's go ahead and look at something we would typically use. Now, I'm going to change this. All right, so this is a V3 on both of these. So, and this is shot 23 is what I'm calling it. Now, this is a stereotypical yeah, stereotypical stereoscopic tracking sheet. And we have a left side and a right side. I like doing a separation with a black line, just like within a column, just to help just visually separate the two. Or else it can be a lot of the same color happening over and over again, especially if, like this, I've only done one shot. So the Cinema 4D statuses, they're both the same on the left and the right. It's just incomplete, work in progress, farm ready. For if you're using a farm, this is a great way to let someone on the team know that this is farm ready. When, if, like, say you don't have, not everyone on the team may have access to the farm. So this is a great way to let another team member know, hey, I prepped this one's ready to go to farm. And then they'd send it to farm and then change it to rendering. Or if you're rendering local, you just change it to rendering and be rendering. Then complete means it's done rendering. Similar for After Effects, except no farm, it's just incomplete, work in progress, rendering complete. And then for the edit, this is for you to signify, signal the lead or whoever is in charge of organizing everything into the edit. And this means like, hey, this isn't ready, this is ready. And then once you would mark, hey, this is ready for edit, the person who is bringing everything into the edit will be like, oh, okay. Oh, and it's version 3. Cool. This column is just a great way for whoever is organizing the edit to be able to double check without having to go through every render in a folder to see, okay, yes, I do have the latest version of everything, because you want to make sure you have the latest version of everything. And then they would change it to in edit. Yes, and then this is where you would assign it to an artist. And this open checkbox is just really nice for when you're working with a large team. That way they know that, hey, you're working on this file right now, so they shouldn't mess with it, because you end up trading files a lot. That's just how it is. And that's fine. We like to share. So yeah, that's a stereotypical stereoscopic tracking sheet. And I believe that's it. Thanks so much, everybody. All right, everybody, that's it. Thank you, Maxon, so much for having me. Thank you to Perception for giving me such cool projects to work on. Thank you to all the team members that I worked with on this. You are all amazing, and I learned so much from you. And lastly, a huge thank you to Pixar for letting me share the work we did for them today. I am so thankful, and I cannot wait to share with all of you what I get to work on next. All right, bye.